space available. I really honor you guys for the collaboration so that we can add value to the optometric industry. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time today, just be aware that this is a series that we're running every 3 weeks or so with BBGR, and we've already released 2 other training courses, which the first one was consumer analytics, and the second one was innovative communication skills. And of course, as you see on your screens, today we're talking about service delivery. And I'm excited about this topic because the thing about it is that if you think you're going to have open up an optometry practice, have very nice looking frames, have an amazing team on board, the latest equipment, but not invest in ensuring that the service delivery in the practice is at an all-time high, sales in the business will continue to drop. And remember, when it comes to optometric practices, delays, mistakes, wrong orders, many controllable and uncontrollable events take place on any given point in time, especially now when we are all adapting to this, I don't want to say new normal, but a new way of doing things. It's very important that we revisit our processes, our protocols, our systems right now to ensure that which we are doing as a practice from a service delivery point of view, it's still at the level at which it's supposed to be. For those of you who've just joined us, hello. Can you please do indicate in the chat box if you are an optometrist, because I would like to see how many optometrists have or are able to join us this morning, so that if I do say something that is contradicting what you have been sharing with your team, then please do indicate in the chat box that I'm doing it differently from what you say, and please do share with us when you are doing something differently. All right, so let's get going. As much as I love these webinars, I've done about 3 or 4 webinars per week in the last few months, and that is a lot. Thank you. I was saying I've done a lot of webinars over the last few months, but nothing beats the personal interaction. So I wanted to just show you this picture just to say that I miss everyone, and I'm sure you guys miss your patients, that you're not seeing your patients as often as you would have liked to. But the question then becomes, now that you are not seeing your patients, what are you currently doing in your practice that ensures that you are still engaged with your patients? For us as a business, as you can see with the images, we used to do a lot of workshops and conferences and so forth. That's how we were engaged with our clients. But in your guys' case, as an optometric practice, what are you doing right now that ensures that you are still in touch and in constant communication with your patients? The biggest mistake that you can make right now as an optometric practice is limit your communication with your patients to promotions and specials that you are running. If the only form of communication that is currently taking place between yourself and the consumers is just promotions and specials, then you've got a big problem on your hands. And hopefully at the end of this training, you're going to look at different ways in which you can engage your consumers through service delivery. And the question before we get going as well is, how do we maintain peak performance levels? And what do I mean by this? The first thing is, what is it currently in your practice that you need to do more of, that you are not doing before these lockdowns that we have been experiencing? Are there certain areas that you realize that, wait a minute, we need to spend more time doing, where we need to invest our resources and our time on? Second question is, what is it that we need to be creating that did not exist before the lockdown, before COVID-19? A lot of practices, what I've observed is that they have limited the communication amongst themselves to discussing personal protection equipment, discussing the list of protocols that they need to give the consumer pertaining to communication between the practice and the consumer. But here's something that I observed in preparing for this training today. So last week, I contacted about 50 optometric practices in the country. So I went to my database and I picked up the phone and I called about 50 optometric practices. And I said the same thing to all practices. And this is what I said. I said to them, hi, I would like to book an appointment for my eye exam. 37 of those 50 practices responded in a similar manner. They said, hi sir, unfortunately we cannot see anyone during this time. That was the initial response that we got. And I was like, okay, you're not engaging me first by saying, sir, as you are aware, we've got various restrictions right now. We're seeing only emergency cases. What particular problem are you having? The first engagement was before they can even engage me on what was my problem. Why do I have to have an eye exam? Am I a first-time caller to that patient or not? Have I been there before? There was nothing that they were doing in engaging me from that first moment of answering the phone. All they were saying is, and that was 37 is a lot out of 50. That is a lot. And so you have to be thinking of what are some of the new things that you need to start doing when it comes to communication, how you're doing things. Perhaps now that you have to improve on your service delivery of contact lenses directly to people's homes could be something that you could be considering. Becoming more online savvy could be something that you can consider. So you have to be thinking of how do you maintain peak performance levels during this time. Next, what do you need to do less of as an optometric practice that you were doing too much of before? And lastly, what is it that you need to continue immediately eliminate from your systems, your protocols, because it adds no value, none whatsoever, to your optometric practices? Here's the thing that you need to remember. Challenges are always going to arise within optometric practices. But if the team is well prepared and well trained in terms of how do you overcome various different types of challenges and problems that arise within the practice, especially now, it's going to put you in a position where through service delivery, you can still get sales. Because sales in the practice, the biggest influencer or contributor to the sales that you get in an optometric practice, it's actually the service delivery in that optometric practice, not the amazing products and services that you have. And so just think about that question for a minute in terms of how do you maintain peak performance levels? And that is very, very important for you to understand how do you go about that. I see here we've got a lot of optometrists actually joining us today, which is very, very good. Let's make this as practical as we possibly can today. I know that I sometimes say things that are very controversial. For example, I'll show you now here.
I'm speaking.
One of the things that we refer to as a business when it comes to the people that come to optometric practices is we refer to them as consumers. And throughout the rest of this presentation, I'm going to show you the breakdown between how do we ensure that service delivery for the different types of consumers is relevant, is specific, is customized to that particular group. The reason why we've broken it down in terms of patient, customer, and client, we always get asked this question. For us, the way we see it is that the patient is the person that has a problem regarding their eyes. They have never had any form of visual correction or eye exam that they have done before. And so they come to your practice as a first-time visitor who requires assistance with regards to their visual health. Whereas the customer is someone who has at any given point in time in their life had a pair of spectacles. Whether they had received that pair of spectacles or contact lenses from your practice or they received it from another place, the fact is that they have spent money on a product that helps them with their problem. And that's why we refer to them as a customer. Whereas the client is the person that keeps coming back to your practice year after year over a certain period in time. And so with regards to today's presentation, when I mention a patient, when I mention a customer, when I mention a client, I'm basically referring to the patient being that person that calls your practice for the very first time. That patient is that person that walks into your practice for the very first time with a problem. How you approach that individual, the expectation that that individual has will be different from the person that you have seen once or twice before. Will be different from the person that has been with your practice for the last 10 years or so. So just be aware that not all consumers are the same, and you cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach to everyone that walks into your practice, because right now people are not rushing to get back into optometric practices. People are not rushing to get a new pair of spectacles. And so when you know how to communicate, how to approach the patient, the customer, the client, or how do you engage them through the service that you are rendering in your practice, it's very, very important for you to understand. So let's get going. The first type of problem that I wanted us to focus on today is appointment no-show. This one is very, very interesting because many reasons influence why a person will not show up for their appointment. During this time, with people having to come to your practice with an appointment, is there anyone, you can just indicate in the chat box, is there anyone who has had people that canceled an appointment that they made? So just think about it. How did that impact the preparation that was involved in the day? So when it comes to appointments, here's the thing that you need to be aware of. Patients are very skeptical about eye examinations, right? So when they make the appointment, don't focus too much on the spectacles that they need. Rather, outline processes involved in the examination procedures and the wide range of management solutions that one is.
Your speaker is on.
Very much. Remember, a patient has got that approach that if I go to the optometry practice, they're going to give me a pair of glasses, whether I need them or not. So they're very skeptical about that. So make sure that when they're making their appointments, you are educating them, importantly, about why they need to have their eye examination, what is going to be involved in the examination, what are some of the questions that we are going to be engaging them, trying to figure out what is the problem with their vision beyond what they're complaining about, and make them aware that there will be possible management solutions beyond just a pair of glasses. There might be coatings, there might be tints, there might be a need for contact lenses, there might be a need for a second pair of glasses, or perhaps there might not even be a need for a pair of spectacles. But the patient wants to have that confidence that, okay, so it's not what I thought it was, so let me come for my appointment. Whereas the customer, remember, whether it's an existing or a new customer, they've got preconceived ideas about what they need. Is it working or not, the previous management that they received? Should they be coming to you in the first place or go elsewhere? What would be different this time around if they come to you regarding their eye care needs versus if they go elsewhere? So always remember that your job in securing the appointment is to distinguish yourself as the optometric practice that adds value to your customers. So right now, based on your services, based on your systems, based on your protocols in the optometric practices, how is it that you're distinguishing yourself as a value-adding practice? Can you confidently say that when people go onto our social media, when people go onto our website, when people call us, do they get the confidence that, wow, we have what we need for them in terms of their eyewear needs? So do an exercise for yourself. If you're an optometrist and your staff are not joining this, call your patient, your practice. Do yourself a favor from time to time. Call your own practice when you're not at the practice, or get a family member to call your practice and be your own mystery shopper and try and get an insight in terms of when your staff members are answering the phone, how do they go about answering the phone with people that are making their appointments? You'll be very shocked in terms of that which you think your staff is saying versus what your staff is actually saying to customers. It's two different things. So just always be aware that customers have preconceived ideas And you need to be aware of what those preconceived ideas are in order for you to be able to address them adequately. When it comes to the clients, if you treat your approach to appointments as a by the way type of thing, clients are going to treat your their appointments as a by the way type of thing. What do I mean by that? Here's the thing. Part of service delivery, when a client calls, if someone picks up the phone and calls you to make an appointment and you realize that it's Ntate Chabalala who has been at the practice for the last 10 years, before you just say, yes sir, we can see you on Thursday 10 o'clock, ask them, sir, while I still have you on the line, can I quickly pull up your file? You go onto the computer screen and you check, Ntate Chabalala was here 2 years ago or a year ago. This is the reason why Ntate Chabalala was here. Ntate Chabalala, I see here you are on our medical aid. Are you still on this medical aid? Ntate Chabalala is going to say yes or no. Whatever that he says, you say, Ntate Chabalala, since your appointment is for Thursday, do you mind if we check your benefits prior to you coming to your appointment so that we have everything ready for you when you come? That is service delivery when it comes to people that have been coming to your practice for years. It does not make any sense whatsoever for someone who has been coming to your optometric practice for the last 10 years, for you to just take out the file the day before or that morning and put it in a little box in the front so that when that person comes in the morning, you then say, but you did not check the benefits. You did not check the buying behavior or the purchasing behavior of Ntate Chabalala over the last 10 years. Because when you check that information prior, you are in a position then to know that Ntate Chabalala, who's coming in for his appointment on Thursday, has been spending so much in our practice. Ntate Chabalala, who's been coming to our practice, has usually been buying 2 pairs of glasses, but 1 pair of glasses has a BBGR AR coating lens on it. The other one never does. But the complaint that Ntate Chabalala always has is that he struggles with glare and light sensitivity. Perhaps we need to revisit the conversation of an upgrade for Ntate Chabalala. That's how you go about planning your appointments for clients. It's different. You cannot have your patient who's making an appointment for the first time, your customer who's coming in for the second time, and your client who's coming for the third time or the fourth time, being treated the same way when it comes to appointment making. So I hope you guys got that. If you guys have a different approach with regards appointment making, please do indicate in the chat box. I would love to hear from you in terms of what do you guys do that is different, or if you agree or disagree with the approach that I've just indicated. Next.
Obi, before you move on, Obi,
Yes.
there is a question in the chat box. So it says here, we've had patients that cancel, and then the same patient, and this is from Zandele Kruger, that says the same patient will move and reschedule and not show, but they keep on making appointments. How do you deal with that?
Yes, that's a very, very good question. Thank you very much, Zandele. It goes back to what I was saying in terms of, it's probably the person who has been coming to that practice for some time. Look at, was this something that they did before? So it's very, very important that you, in your patient files, you make short notes. Even on the computer screen, there's a note section that enables you with the software, depending on the software that you are using, that you are able to always make notes about the patient, the customer or the client. Those notes will help you determine whether or not you need to be aware of something pertaining to a particular individual, because that person would have probably been always doing that like that. So always ask them to say, look, give them a call to say, ma'am, you keep changing your appointment and we understand that things are not normal anymore. However, because we're only seeing patients by appointment right now as a result of this new way of doing things, when you don't come for your appointment, it means that someone that could have come in that time did not come in that particular space. And so, ma'am, you would not like that happening in your business, in your thing. That's one way. Another way is to say, ma'am, here's the thing that you need to be aware of pertaining to our appointments. This is our procedure. That's why in some businesses, for example, you need to have a 24-hour notice period with regards cancelling of appointments, especially if they're on your medical aid. So I would suggest that you have to have clear standard operating procedures that you are communicating with your patients pertaining to appointment making. That if they're on a medical aid, or if they've been coming to you before, and they're not on medical aid, they need to be aware that there are consequences for them repeatedly just canceling an appointment, because it impacts you as a business owner. You working in a restaurant, ordering your food, when the food is busy being made, then you tell the waiter, oh, sorry, I'm not going to be able to continue with the meal, I have to go. That's the same thing. The restaurant is still going to expect you to pay because you have placed an order. With regards to an appointment, they need to know that you are seeing them because you schedule time for them that you could have scheduled for someone else. So you need to set those boundaries. You need to be clear with regards to communication with the patient. One thing that can also help is just call the patient and talk in terms of why do they keep doing that. And you'll find that there's actually other problems or underlying factors that influence that. So it's very, very important that you just communicate effectively with the patient. With regards to delayed jobs, I hope I answered that question, Belinda. With regards to delayed jobs, and this is where BBGR comes in, I guess, establish very good working relationships with your lab. You need to know how the lab operates. And I've seen in a lot of optometric practices, the optometrist is the one who knows when does the lab place orders, or how does the lab receive orders, and how long does the lab take to produce a lens. It's very, very important as a practice that you understand the process behind manufacturing of a particular order. For example, a standard single vision lens with a particular coating from BBGR lens with a particular tint, single vision, for example. You need to know that when they receive their order on a 10 o'clock in the morning versus when they receive orders 5 o'clock in the afternoon, how does that influence the processing and the development of that job up until it gets back to the practice? So it's very, very important that with your sales reps from BBGR, for example, you communicating with them in terms of, look, for these type of jobs, what is the process behind this? And as an optometrist, communicate with your staff in terms of, guys, when we have orders that come out throughout the day, this is what we need to do in going about invoicing and all of that. I've seen, shockingly, that practices will do invoicing in the afternoon or as a by the way thing, not prioritizing the invoicing so that the lab order can go out, so that the lab can receive the order at a particular time frame, so that they can then know that, okay, we've got X amount of days to prepare this job. But a lot of times practices are not discussing the process involved with regards to ordering and producing of jobs. So it's very, very important that when it comes to your patients, you never set unrealistic expectations to the consumer that you have no control of. Very, very important that you communicate effectively with regards how the job is going to be done, when is the job going to be ready, how long is going to be taking place. Never overpromise something that you can't deliver. Make sure that every time you make a promise, you have confirmed first with the lab, because you're not the only practice that is communicating with the lab. You're not the only practice that is also making demands on that particular lab that you are working with. So make sure that if you see that, and it's not going to happen with a lot of patients, there's going to be certain patients or customers, for example, that will give you the indication from the onset that they need their particular pair of glasses urgently. If they're getting 2 pairs of glasses, communicate with them to say, sir, the first pair will be ready on this day, and at least make sure that you're prioritizing 1 pair whilst you're still waiting for the other pair. Make sure that when they're expecting 2 pairs of glasses, you're not just relaxed and placing the order, and only the day before the order is supposed to come, you're following up with the order with the lab, whereas that patient, for example, or that customer gave you the indication from the onset that they need this pair of glasses urgently. And so that's not going to be with every patient, not with every consumer. Make sure that those individuals who have given you the indication that they need their glasses urgently, that you put a bit of pressure on the lab, that you prioritize in that lab, that order more quicker than you would other jobs. Understand the type of consumer you're dealing with. That's basically the point that I was making reference to. You need to make sure that you're not just going about every order as if it's just another order. The person that has been with you for 10 years, who has been spending their hard-earned money year after year, expects to feel that you are willing to go out of your way to get them what they need. The customer who comes to your practice for the second time wants to be reassured that what they experienced before is going to be even better today as compared to 2 years ago. So understand the different types of individuals that you are communicating with. Very, very important. I see here, the question from Randy says here, what happens when you have ordered same prescription for 2 orders, but you only receive 1? Belinda, that's where you come in and answer that.
Did you place it at the same time? Obviously, there must be a reason. There must be a reason for only receiving 1. But also adding to what you are saying, listening to the lab and finding out, for instance, to get online ordering is now the way to go to get your orders quicker into the system, into the ordering system, and on any online ordering system there will be tracking, and then on the tracking you will obviously be able to see why the one is delayed for whatever reason. And then yes, having a good relationship with your lab, as you've mentioned, will definitely help them giving you better timelines.
That's the thing. That's a perfect answer, because a lot of optometry practices don't realize or they don't effectively utilize the online ordering systems that are available. Because with the online ordering systems, they help you keep track of what you are doing. And even with your practice, here's the thing. You need to evolve as an optometric practice. You need to, not only should the lab themselves have an online ordering platform, but you as an optometric practice, it's very important that on your website, you have an e-commerce platform. And the e-commerce platform, it's where a lot of your patients or your customers can do a lot of purchasing of your products online. But making sure that also on your website, you have an advanced website whereby patients can see themselves. There's a patient tracker or a consumer tracker on your website that helps you communicate more effectively with your patients. So for example, on your website, you need to have a system on your website whereby once a person has placed their order with you when they did the pair of spectacles, when they came to the practice, you need to communicate with them that they can track what is happening with the order on your own company website. So if you need assistance with that, do get in touch. We are more than ready and available to help you with that. We are doing fantastic websites for various optometric practices locally and internationally. So we can help you with that. So we wrote here, deliver on what you make a promise on. Here's the thing with consumers. If you don't deliver what you made a promise on, you lose trust. You break the loyalty that could have happened between yourself and the practice, or yourself and the patient. And so make sure that you always deliver on what you make a promise on. If you can't deliver, make sure that most importantly, you have communicated with the relevant individual on what is happening with their job. Never, ever, 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 ever wait for a consumer to get in touch with the practice. That is a complete no-go. Every consumer, the practice must communicate with the consumer first. That is so, so imperative. And make sure that there are systems in place that you guys have discussed as a team that ensure that, guys, if this order goes wrong, if this happens that is wrong in the practice, if we do this and this is the result, if we do that, this is the result. It's very, very important that the different scenarios pertaining to your orders that happen, whether it be contact lens orders or spectacle orders, you have effectively communicated as a team to say, this problem, this is how we go about communicating. Patients that are coming for the first time and we said the following to them, make sure that you are delivering on that and you keep track of your patient communication. There should be a notebook of some sort, even on your computer screen, on the software that you are using, where there's a note tracking or message tracking platform that everyone in the practice can effectively be aware of. In the UK, for example, there's a software called iClarity, which is linked to your lab, it's linked to your ordering, your invoicing, your medical aid, it's linked to your communication with your patients, it's linked to your test card. So it's an online test card as well, that is, everything is on the software. What happens is that every time someone makes a note on the software, red will indicate something, green will indicate something, orange will indicate something. So every time that software is opened in front of whichever computer, every staff member at any given point in time in whichever department is able then to be aware of what is happening with various individuals with regards to their orders. Very, very important that you keep track of what is happening with your orders. Next, incorrect order or change in script. How do you go about that? I see we've got a comment here. Okay, yeah, it just says here, communicate, more emphasis on communicating with regards with our patients about any delayed. Don't wait for them don't wait for them to communicate with you. And Julian here says, you will save more time by tracking your orders online instead of phoning the lab. You will also save money on the phone call. That makes sense. So if you are in an area, here's the thing, a lot of optometry practices will come with the excuse, I'm in Tembisa, for example, or I'm in Vosloorus, and my patients don't do online stuff. My patients don't do this social media thing. My patients don't do websites. But here's the thing that you don't realize, dear optometrist or practice. They might not be doing those things with regards to your business, but they're doing those things with regards to all other businesses. So you need to understand that optometry has a health component, has an educational component, but it also has a retail component. And with regards to the retail component, it's very, very important that we are up to date, innovative, advanced with regards to the day-to-day operations that influence the sales in the business. So let's say here, a change in the ordering, it's very, very important that you constantly train the staff on the standard operating procedures. I ask you again in the chat box, please do indicate if in the optometric practices, there's a file or a standard operating procedures manual that everyone follows. Why am I saying this? A few years ago, I used to work for a pharmaceutical company. And at the pharmaceutical company, we received training every single month. And you would go to the head office and we would be trained on whatever component that they wanted us to be trained on. And after the training, we would write a short, or we will do a short assessment on exactly what we were trained about. And that goes onto your portfolio as an individual to say, this OB Malope has done the following trainings so far in the organization. And I had received certificates of every one of those training. And it then gets put into a standard operating procedures manual that if there's anything that goes wrong or something that I've been trained on, but I'm still falling short of delivering on, I'm then able to go back to the standard operating procedures manual and check, wait a minute, oh, I misunderstood what I was trained on. This is what it actually means. Or I can go to my optometrist and ask them for more clarity on that which I've been trained on. So you need to have some form of manual in the practice that speaks directly on service delivery, that speaks directly on different components of the optometric practice. Don't just limit the files in the practice to, I've seen a lot of practices, they would have a file for medical aid, which is also combined with a file for pricing. But where is your file for standard operating procedures that you're constantly training people on? You just having a folder on your computer that says patient referrals or warranty and guarantee. If you just have those files on there, but you have not spent time with the team training each other on these different types of manuals that I'm referencing, those things then just become useless documents that are in the practice that you're not actually training yourselves on. So it's very, very important. So let's continue here. We say here, let me just move this. Communication with all parties involved needs to take place as promptly as possible, and all discussion points need to be clearly understood by everyone. So make sure that there's a system or protocol when there's a change in script. This is the procedure that is followed. For example, if a patient comes into the practice that was prescribed a pair of glasses and now they're not happy with it and they're coming in, but based on you're not there as an optometrist every single day, you make sure that your team understands what they need to communicate with the patient pertaining to changes in the script. It's very, very important that you also don't hesitate having the uncomfortable money discussion with the patient, because sometimes the incorrect order or change in script could be the problem with the practice, right? But sometimes a patient could have a customer could have received services from another practice, and now they're coming to you because they spend 4,000 or 5,000 rands elsewhere. Now they're coming to your practice because they were just unhappy with the service that they got somewhere else, and their medical aid is not going to pay for that. Now they come to your practice, for example, and they need a new pair of glasses, or something happened with their pair of glasses outside of the warranty and guarantee, and now they spend 6,000-7,000 rands before. They can't afford that. You need to know, how do you go about approaching the individual in terms of communicating with them, in terms of, look, I understand the challenges financially that you now have to be spending so much money on the following, but this is the best that we can do. Make sure that you're constantly communicating effectively with people when it comes to anything to do with money that pertains to the pair of spectacles. Always remember this: when you have given value as a service, it will always be easier to discuss anything pertaining to money. Patience. A lot of times we get this question that says, Obi, like my patients or customers, whatever you want to call them, are price sensitive, and we're always having to give discounts. We're always having to give a pair of spectacles at a discounted rate, for example. When you have provided so much value to the patient, the customer, the client, and you know what value you were supposed to be providing for that individual, it's easier for you then to discuss money-related discussions with them with confidence. And you have to train your staff. Train your staff on how do they communicate anything regarding money with regards the patient, with regard the products that consumers are purchasing. Is very, very important. And here's the thing about incorrect orders and changing script as well that you need to remember. Always keep the consumer informed at all times. It's nothing frustrating for a consumer who is waiting for their pair of glasses, having to call back and ask, where's my glass? What's happening with my order? I ordered my contact lenses there. I ordered my pair of spectacles. My lenses were promised to have been back this day. My pair of spectacles, whatever it is, make sure that you are keeping the consumer informed at all times. Let's move faster here. delayed contact lens orders, same thing applies. Here's the thing with regards to your contact lens orders, it's a bit difficult with your spectacle wearers, but with regards to your contact lens wearers, for example, you need to have a category consumer placement card, for example, with every contact lens order that you are receiving. What do I mean by this? Your contact lens patients are buying a 30-pack, a 90-pack, a 6-month supply, a year supply. You should have a system in your practice whereby you know who are your contact lens wearers. When should their contact lenses be completed? How are they wearing their contact lenses? And when are they supposed to be placing their contact lens orders? When is that time for them to be placing their order? The initiation should come from the practice, not from the consumer. So you need to be communicating with your consumers who are wearing both spectacles and contact lenses to say, this is our practice. Your next order of contact lenses is due now. Can we go ahead and place your contact lens order? You have to get to a point in your optometric practice where you are having pre-sales. You're not waiting for sales, but you are actually going out and getting the sales. So make it easy for your contact lens patients to order. Make it easy for them to know that, every 3 months or every 90 days, every 30 days, I'm placing a pack of dailies. However way they wear their contact lenses that you have advised them. Make sure that you are effectively communicating that you are the one who is reminding them for the placement of the order, not waiting for them to place the order. That's how you actually get sales far quicker as compared to you just waiting. So establish an ordering cycle. That's basically what I was alluding to, and get the contact lens procedures communication right from the onset. So make sure that you want to make sure that with every consumer, when I was in practice, this is how I approached it. The practice sells spectacles. The practice sells various coatings and tints on the pair of spectacles. The practice sells sunglasses. The practice sells contact lenses. The practice sells the following. When I manage a patient or a customer who comes to me for the first time, when I manage them with all of that which I've just mentioned as the first point of management solutions that I'm providing them. So if an opportunity exists for this person to wear both glasses and contact lenses, that's what I'm going to be communicating with that particular person. I'm going to be communicating multiple pairs of glasses. I'm going to communicate multiple pairs of sunglasses. I'm going to be communicating multiple management solutions to every single consumer. Why? Because they've got multiple shoes, they've got multiple bags, they've got multiple jeans, they've got multiple whatever that it is, they've got multiple of it. Why can't they have multiple pairs of eyewear? That is still making sure that you are still managing the problem that they are having. So there's no way that eyes cannot be more important than a pair of jeans. So always think like that. So with the team, train your guys as a team to make sure that you are understanding how do you go about communicating or establishing or understanding the buying behavior or the purchasing behavior of your spectacle wearers and your contact lens wearers. Here's another one, poor service delivery. It's a bad one. Always own up to the problem and take full responsibility of the situation. Consumers are always interested in one thing only. Will my matter be resolved and how long will it take to solve it? They don't want excuses. They don't want all these reasons that practices have. And it is imperative that you never have or play the blame game amongst each other within the practice. So if the patient is coming and you are the one who's there as a staff member communicating with that particular individual who's frustrated about the service delivery that they have, take ownership of the problem, and take charge of the situation and make sure that that individual gets confidence that, wow, okay, I'm not happy, but you guys are willing to go out of your way to solve it. And always get in touch with the consumers first. I will keep making that point throughout this presentation. Lost sales opportunities. Here's the thing. It goes back to practice training. You're not doing enough training as a practice. Select various topics within the practice that you can do training on. So this week you're talking frames. Next week you're talking contact lenses. Next week you're talking lenses. Next week you're talking coatings. Next week you're talking combinations of orders. But you need to make sure that every week there's some form, or every month there's some form of continuous training that takes place pertaining to various components of the business on a regular basis, that your team, and don't bombard people with training. So train a section at a time, train one thing at a time, and make it continuous. If it's weekly or bi-weekly, but make sure that you're scheduling time regularly for training. And develop a standard operating procedures manual. If you need assistance with this, please do get in touch with us, and we are more than glad to assist you with developing and producing a standard operating procedures manual. In actual fact, what happens with practices that sign up for various Visionstryt activities for a year, one of the things that they do is a training manual for staff. They get a training guide for the optometric team, and then they get a standard operating procedures manual for the optometric practice. And so always make sure that as a team, you are constantly reverting back to, guys, this which we are doing, how is it excellent service delivery? And you need to answer that question pertaining to every single component of the business. That's how you will prevent lost sales that could happen in the optometric practice. So some notes here quickly. Excellence should be the order of the day. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. And great service delivery in an environment results in increased sales and profits in any environment. The one forms the foundational basis of the other one. And so your processes, if they don't result in great service delivery, sales in the business will continue to decrease. And service delivery in a business, always remember this, is what yields sales in the business. So always ask yourself, how can we make this more efficient? How can we make this more convenient? Is this adding value that it was 5 years ago? Have we perhaps become complacent in a particular area as an optometric practice as compared to where we used to be before? So I'll give you an example. How are you communicating with your consumers? If 10 years ago you were sending an SMS to say, come for your appointment, and it's now 10 years later and you're still just sending a text message for your consumers to come for the recalls and follow-ups, there's a problem with what you're doing. There are so many advanced ways of communicating with your various consumers today in 2020 that didn't exist 10 years ago. So why are you limiting the way you're communicating with your consumers to stuff that you were only doing 10 years ago? You need to evolve, you need to adapt, you need to find new innovative ways of ensuring that your service delivery is still evolving as everything else is still evolving and adapting. And so always remember, when service delivery is functioning at an optimum, the sales will be at a maximum. And so a very quick assessment tool, I'm going to go past this section very, very quickly, is the following. You need to measure the following as a team. And this is in our book, actually. Would you be willing to pay for the services you are currently giving to the consumer? Would you be satisfied with the service you are rendering if it had to be rendered to you in the same way? Do you consider the service that you are giving to a particular consumer to be the best of its kind? If the entire sale was dependent on the service that you're rendering, will the sale be good? Will the sale be high? And would you recommend the service that you're giving? So never give to others what you yourself will not do or accept. So always remember that. So this is in our book. You can actually go and check out our books here. And so a quick profile on the consumer for your practice, some questions that will help you in restructuring various components of your business going forward. And the following questions, basically, you need to answer this for yourself. So hopefully you've got a pen and paper. As I'm going to ask you, I'm just going to ask you various questions. So hopefully you've got a pen and paper in front of you that you can actually write down the questions as we're going along and try and answer them for yourself. And just think about them more carefully and discuss it later amongst yourselves as the team. But the first one here is, when it comes to case history, this is what the team the team actually plays a role in case history, and not only the optometric team. So the information that the patient information form, for example, that consumers complete, don't just give a person the form for them to update the details, or they just go online and update the details online. Very, very important that you establish the following. General lifestyle, core values, beliefs, interests, fears, or concerns that they may have. Engage them on that. How was their previous optometric practice experience? What were the pros and cons? So if that particular individual is the first time that you guys are seeing them, but they've been wearing glasses for the last 3 to 4 years, probe them as a staff member to find out, okay, where did you get your previous glasses? What was your experience there? What was the good about the experience? What was the bad about the experience? Find out that information from the individual, because it helps you to know then, oh, wait a minute, this person was irritated with the previous optometry practice that got the order wrong, or the coating kept on removing from the glasses or wiping from the glasses, and they kept on mentioning it to the previous optometry practice, but they were not satisfied with the management thereof. So now they've come to you. You're going to get to know that information, so that when you're placing that order now, you are going to be highlighting under your consumer notes for that particular individual that this person, the bad experience that they had before was as follows. So we need to make sure as a practice, we don't repeat the mistake that they experienced elsewhere. Because if you can exceed expectations, customers are going to be willing to spend more money than they were initially intending to. Next, try to figure out what their personality is like. Engage them. What is their visual goal? Probe them on their leisure and working activities. And so that's very, very important, that case history or patient information forms that people are completing online or that they come to the practice to complete. That initial discussion with the consumer, you are getting as much detail as you possibly can from the consumer, such that you are then in a position to know where are the opportunities for you to exceed the expectations? Where are the opportunities for you to ensure that, wait a minute, we've got the solutions for the problems that they're experiencing, and this is what they need, and this is how you're going to communicate with that, in that regard, with that particular individual. Next, what medium do your consumers use to get the information from you regarding your business, right? Social media, website, Google, print material, referrals. How do they get information pertaining to your business? This is very, very important for you to understand which platform you need to be on more of, which platform you need to invest more resources on, which platform or component that we have highlighted here has got more opportunity. So for example, if your referral is the biggest one, where people are coming to your practice based on referrals, you need to think of ways like maybe having a promotion or a special or a discount thing, discount code on as an offering to people that refer other people to your business, where they can get something in return for them referring people for you. You need to think of how do we ensure that people that are referring people to our practice benefit, and that they can continue doing that more of. It's very, very important that you understand that, wait a minute, people are Googling me because in the lockdown for the last 3 months, people have been in front of their phones. So they are researching optometric practices. When they get there, what do they find pertaining to your business? So you need to think of those type of things. Next, do you know which of those mediums that we've just alluded to carry the most weight? And this is important for you to understand where you need to invest the most of your time and resources, basically. Do you fully understand how consumers experience your products, services, and solutions offering when they're using them? Do you know what emotions the experience evokes and how it makes them feel or think? For example, do you even, like your clients, for example, when was the last time you asked people that have been coming to your practice a simple question? What can we improve in our business? When was the last time you actually did that? What do you do to find out that, oh, this is what people are experiencing with our product. What are you doing in your practice in engaging the consumer pertaining to how you can improve your product offering, how you can improve your service delivery as a whole? Are you aware of any problems consumers encounter when they use your service? And here's a thing here that we've done here. When you post this presentation, Belinda makes this presentation available. But there's a question that you must do together as your team. Do you know why consumers choose your brand over others? Then you indicate, there's about 11 of these things here. Then you indicate from 1 to 11. Based on the presentation, I was supposed to have added the 11th one here. But you need to ask yourself and answer this question that you are seeing in front of your screen in terms of why people choose your brand over others. Is it because of the value? Is it because of the experience, the products, the services, the value experience, the solution offering, the expertise, the convenience, the company culture, the team, the leadership, the trustworthy brand that you have built over the years? And then the second question then becomes, do you know why certain consumers would choose another company or brand over your own? And you do it with the same questions that we have alluded to. Very, very important. Do you know which kind of consumers are the most valuable to your company? So, for example, you might be in a practice that sees more presbyopic patients than you do pediatric patients. You might be in a practice that sees low-incoming people as compared to middle-incoming people. So if you know which are the majority of people that you are seeing, then you are able to structure your communication, your product offering to those individuals. Then you also know that, okay, I might be seeing low-incoming patients in my practice based on the following, but how I do offer services for middle-income earners. I do offer services for high-incoming earners. How do I structure my practice, my service offering, my solutions offering as a whole to make sure that I also attract those consumers that I'm not currently seeing the majority of, whilst not compromising the service and the products that I'm rendering to those individuals that I'm seeing a lot of. So for example, if you want to grow your presbyopia database, but your social media, all you're doing is running promotions and specials, you need to understand that if presbyopia is the majority of people that you are seeing, when you're communicating with them on social media or on your website, it's very important that you understand that, wait a minute, they fall part of the baby boomers, so, and Generation X. And so how does that buying group prefer to be communicated with? How does that group communicate on social media? So what social media platforms would be most effective for me to communicate with my presbyopic patients? So that's what you need to understand with regards to this question. Next one here. Do you know what consumers say about your brand when they recommend it to others? Do you actually even know when someone says they came to your practice because they were referred by someone else? Do you actually know what did that other person say to this person? You need to find out. You need to know what people are saying about your brand when they're recommending or discussing it with others. So it goes back to the following things that we mentioned. Does it have to do with any of these things that you see on your screen in terms of when they're talking about your business? Do they talk about any of these things that we have alluded to here, or anything else that is not on your screen? The value experience, the products, the services, the people, the culture. That's very, very important. And how do you receive input from consumers regarding the overall interaction and overall experience with your brand and business? Do you have an after-service feedback card? Can people go onto your website and make comments pertaining to the services that they have received from you? Or do they complete it in the practice? Do you have after-service follow-up calls? Do you have social media? What platform or medium are you currently using in your practice that effectively helps you know how to engage your consumers more effectively, so that you know that, wait a minute, a lot of people are completing an after-service feedback card. Does someone then keep that card, track that card, and keep making sure that the information that is being shared with your practice, that, oh, wait a minute, guys, people are talking about our service delivery, people are talking about our products here, or whatever it is that consumers are talking about when it comes to your service or feedback card that you have given them. It's very, very important that you then make effective decisions pertaining to, wait a minute, we need to do more of this or less of that. And what I'll give you an example. The other day, I put 2 pictures up on social media. I put a picture and I asked people which one is better. And I asked them about that they need to choose one. We had different responses. Some responses said number 1 because of various reasons. Others said number 2 because of various reasons. Others wanted to find out more, to say, what was the campaign about? Why would I want to go with this? And I noticed there was a difference in response between younger people who are under the age of 40 before I get in trouble, and older people who are above the age of 60. A lot of older people kept on saying they prefer eye contact, whereas in the other picture, I didn't have my eye contact, so I was looking somewhere else. And so younger people were saying, millennials were saying option 1, whereas your Generation X and your baby boomers were saying the second image. So that information helped us to then know that, wait a minute, I need to find a balance between the image 1 and image 2. So that's why you need to get feedback from your consumers so that you are in a position to know what are the areas in our practice that we can improve on. And how do you acknowledge this input then that you receive from them? You need to then know that you're going to do something about it. In conclusion here, quickly, this is, before you all disappear, this is very, very important for you guys to understand. We have made this available here. For those of you that need to go, we fully understand because it was scheduled for an hour. But for those of you who are still with us, I'll continue for a few minutes. I've broken down here, and this is the first time that I'm sharing this screen anywhere in the world. This screen that you're looking at here, I've never shared this screen in any presentation, any form of platform. So this is the first time that you guys are getting to see this, and I'm excited to share this with you. So those 11 components that we made reference to, the value experience, the products, the services, the solution offering, the location, and so forth. We've then broke it down between patient, customer, and client. So for example, when it comes to exceeding consumer expectations with regards to the value experience, the thing that you need to understand with regards to the patient, you need to be dispelling any misconceptions they have about getting their eyes tested. Whereas with the customer, their current experience should be better than the previous one. Whereas with the client, they need to know and experience that you care about their well-being. So we do the same with regards products, we do the same with regards services, where we break it down per individual. For example, here with products, when it comes to your online presence, when it comes to social media and exceeding consumer expectations, this is what we have said here. Products, what you need to be communicating with patients. Remember, a patient is that person who has got a problem, is going to go to your website or go to your social media to Google that optometric practice in my area. Then they come across you. When they go under your section under products, you need to be communicating the problems they're experiencing. That's what a consumer wants to see when a patient wants to see when they get to your website or your social media pertaining to products. Whereas the customer, they want to see, or you want to make sure that you're communicating usage and functionality because they already have the products. So they need to know that, oh, what you are offering is better for me in the following manner. These are the clinical features and benefits of what you are offering and what you are recommending as a management solution for me versus what I have been wearing all along. Whereas the client, you need to be communicating the quality of products more than anything else. And so do the same thing with services, solution offering. The next page here, expertise. For example, with regards to your expertise, how do you showcase your expertise to the patient? The wow factor there is patient education. Whereas to the customer, the wow factor there is experience. And the client, the wow factor there is innovation. Clients have been with you for some time. So if you are remaining complacent, they're going to move to another brand. They're going to move to another business. So it's very important that you are staying innovative as an optometry practice when it comes to the wow factor in showcasing your expertise in a particular component. And I'll give you an example. You will have some optometrist who has been doing contact lenses for the last 15 years, specialty contact lenses, or an optometrist who specializes in various components of optometry, and they're always getting the technical components of the lenses that they're getting from BBGR, for example. Or a practice has latest equipment, right? But here's the shocking thing. Some practices have the latest equipment that they've spent millions of rands on, but when people go to their website, they don't get that this practice has equipment that is different from any other practice that I'm Googling on the website. So understand that how you communicating your expertise to clients, to customers, to patients is going to be very different. And what you do on your online platforms plays a critical role in how consumers engage with your brand, engage with your practice, and what decisions then do they make in getting the services and the products that you're recommending. And here's the thing here, with regards to trustworthy brand, I'll just make reference to that. Empathy and compassion in your messaging and your activities is what should be the focus when it comes to the patient. Whereas the customer, deliver above expectations, deliver on what you promise him on. Whereas with the client who has been with you for years, the question then becomes, how are you helping them save more money and still ensure that they get what they need? So the key there, for example, is loyalty. Loyalty goes a long way with regards the buying or the purchasing behavior of clients in your optometric practice. Company culture, we say here excellence for all of them, right? But when you're communicating company culture to your patients who are coming for the first time, you need to know what you are doing. Whereas the customer, at the back of their mind, when it comes to company culture that they are going to be engaging with, is ensure consumer gets confidence in your brand. Whereas the client, at the back of their mind, they're not going to tell you this, but when it comes to the excellence that they are looking for, they want to see, do you love what you do? So that's basically the difference between company culture when it comes to the different components. And basically, sit down together with your team. If you need more information on this slide that I've just shared with you, please do get in touch with us, and we can do a customized training for your optometric practice in helping you understand this which we have been talking about. And those questions that we just mentioned earlier on, we can send you a checklist of all those questions. You guys can answer it, send it back to us, and we will give you an analysis of exactly what's happening in your practice versus what should be happening in your practice. And all of that is free of charge. And we are more than happy to ensure that we contribute towards what can take your practice to the next level of excellence and revenue growth. I see here we've got some comments here. Okay, that was earlier on. Okay, let me wrap this up and then I'll do a Q&A for this. So that's basically how do you go about exceeding consumer expectations with regards to the 11 different components pertaining to the patient, the customer, and the client. And we've broken it down for you. And this is just a guideline. At the end of the day, there's so much more pertaining to this slide or these past two slides that we could have put as an information, but basically, you want more information, you can get in touch with us. And here's a thing that I wrote here. Excellence should be the only acceptable standard in the optometric practice. Nothing else, nothing more. And thank you very much, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this practical session. And are there any questions from anyone? Do connect with us online, please. It's at Visionstryt across all platforms. And we're putting a lot of content on our YouTube channel. So also follow us at Visionstryt on YouTube. We would love to get connected with you guys. We share a lot of content across our different social media platforms. And of course, my personal page as well.
So I will, hello, thank you, Obi, it was amazing. I'm going to allow people to unmute themselves. So if you want to ask Obi a question, you can unmute yourself now. Yes, and whilst you thinking, yes, thanks, Obi. So the same for BBGR. We also have all our pages. We've got a BBGR for South Africa, which is a public page, which we have material that you can share with your consumers, your customers. You can share from there. And then we've got our BBGR for ECP, which is a private page. You cannot share from there, but there we obviously put all our notifications out for our webinars and meetings, and it's more ECP driven information. And then we've also got LinkedIn, Instagram, and we've got a BBGR YouTube channel, South Africa YouTube channel, where all our webinars that we put there. So if you also subscribe to that, you won't miss a webinar.
I see here, thank you very much, Belinda. Nanda asked, is there an eye clarity alternative available locally? I'm not aware of one that is available locally, but we have been working with trying to see how do we customize, working with the eye clarity team, how do we customize the eye clarity software and make it available for South Africa. So there's Nicholas Rumney in the UK. He has connected Visionstryt with the eye clarity team. I went there last year and spent some time with the eye clarity team looking at how do we integrate the software in terms of in South Africa. So there was a lot of components that need to be adjusted and changed, and it's still in the process basically. And I see some people here, Belinda, the young optometrist, Lebu Matlala as well. They've indicated that they've got staff training manuals, and they do weekly Monday morning training for all staff. Lebu also says that they've got a manual that they follow, which is very, very important. The manual, guys, is very, very important that you keep track of with everyone. And it's very, very key. Lebu also asks here, how do you deal with unpaid spectacle balances and no collection of spectacles due to balances without handing over the patients? Help us, Lebu Matlala. Lebu, that's a very tough one. Unfortunately, this is going to be a bigger problem than even before, because now people, I don't want to say they're using the excuse of COVID-19, but COVID-19 has greatly impacted people's finances a lot. And so what's going to happen now, you're going to find this quite a lot, and you need to find ways in which people are paying fully in advance for their glasses, and try and limit where a person is paying a 50% deposit, and it's a tough one. It's really, really a tough one, and you need to constantly communicate with the patient. And unfortunately, with certain people, it's going to result in you handing them over. That's the nature of the game. We did a thing for another company in the UK during the past 2 months, and this is the same question that came up. And out of the panel of 5 people, not a single one of us came up with the final answer pertaining to how do you deal with these situations. So unfortunately, Lebu, that is a tough one for me to answer for you. It will result in handovers.
I think you've covered all bases.
All right.
So just one last thing about BBGR is we've got also our online ordering system is called OptiClick, which is also on our BBGR YouTube channel. All the training videos is there for you to watch. But that definitely, online is the future. So for any service delivery, going online will improve all service levels in a practice. Okay, so I think, I don't seem to be any questions. Thank you, Obi, it was really amazing.